Hey team, and welcome to our full body mobility session. To start off with, we're going to be on our hands and knees and we're going to do our thread the needle. So one hand goes under, trying to get that shoulder to the ground, and then we're going to look up to the ceiling, trying to get as much rotation through our back as possible. So each time we're pressing through the hand that's on the ground up to the ceiling and then coming through, trying to get as much rotation both ways for our spine. Nice gentle breathing while we do this, so try not to hold our breath. Nice and slow with these as well. So trying to get through our full range of motion, bending to our other side, pressing up through that bottom hand. So the hand above will go behind our head and then looking up to the ceiling. Alright, this is our last one of these. So big press up and rotate and coming back down. So both hands on the ground now into our cat-cow. So working on that spinal mobility, curling through the back and then arching, letting our belly relax as we're in that arching position. And then you tuck the tailbone under when we're curling up to the ceiling. Thinking about each individual vertebrae moving as much as possible. Alright, so now we're going to stay in that position. We're going to keep a neutral spine. We're going to do some scap push-ups. So just moving our shoulder blades. So they're our scaps. Squeezing them and pressing away. So we're trying to keep the spine in that same position. And it's just the shoulder blades moving. So very subtle movement, not too big. Trying to get them moving nicely along our rib cage. Alright, so now we're going to move into a downward dog. And we're going to do some calf pumps there. So we're just going to do 10, so 5 on each side. Just pushing through that full range, whatever that may be for you. Through our ankles, our hips and our shoulders and our spine. Now we're going to step one foot through and we're going to stand up into a lunge, and we're just going to slowly pulse through that range. So letting our hips sink down, keeping our back leg as straight as we can here, and it doesn't matter if our knees go forward. We'll drop that back knee now, and we're just going to move through a lunge and then into a hamstring stretch. So let the hips sink down when you're forward, and then trying to straighten that leg as we sink our hips backwards into that hamstring stretch. Just nice and slow. Alright, then we're going to step that leg back into a downward dog. Then we're going to step the other leg through now. So we're going to go back into our lunge. So nice and slow, just pulsing through that. Oh, lost my balance. Alright. So just nice and slow. Hands go down. We're going to drop the back knee. Sink the hips down even more. And then just going back and forth. So you can lift your toes up as you leaning back in that hamstring stretch if you like. Alright, so now we're going to go into a downward dog and slowly walk our hands back to our feet, so keeping our legs as straight as possible. We're now going to go into our Cossack squat, so feet out wide, and we're going to go from side to side, staying down low. Hands on the ground if you need to. Otherwise, we're going to have hands in front, still staying down low for a little bit more of a challenge. So nice and slow, trying to keep that leg out straight, out to the side, and then working within the range of your ankle mobility for the leg that's bent. And slowly come out of that one now. We're now going to sit on our bums, feet out in front, and we're going to do some 90-90 hip mobility. So we're just going to let the knees go side to side, trying to not let our feet move too much, sitting relatively upright. So now we're going to go to one side, roll back to the other side and lean forward. To make it more of a challenge, you're not going to use your hands as you change to the other side, so really work through your hips, leaning forward and then alternating each time. So depending on your hip mobility and your hip range, you might need to just use your hands, which is totally okay. And last one there, leaning forward. And we're slowly coming up from there. We're going to have our hands behind us and feet in front. Knees are bent, and from here we're going to lift our hips up as best we can, pressing through our chest and our hips up nice and high. So everything's working hard here. We're squeezing our bum, opening up through the chest, so you squeeze your shoulder blades together, head goes back, pressing up. So depending on our chest mobility, you might feel super tight when you do this. Same with your hips or your back, but just going through a range that works for you. If that one feels okay, we're going to go out into a straight leg version. Shake out your wrists if you need to. Otherwise, otherwise you can just stay with the other one. Otherwise, we're going to do this. So squeezing our legs, everything's engaged. Pressing up, same thing. Lifting as high as you can. If you need to, you might want to turn your fingers around the other way if your arms are feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Alright, just stretch forward if you need to. A couple of gentle breaths there. Alright, so now we're going to go onto our hands and knees. So knees are going to be wide as your mat or even wider. And our shins are going to be in line with our knees. So we're going to do our froggy position. Elbows down. And then we're just sort of going to go forward out of it and then slowly push into it. Just be really careful with these ones if you haven't done it before. Sometimes it can feel a little bit uncomfortable if we have tight hips. So don't start out as far. So start in a little closer and then work your way out. And then if you are quite flexible in this position, you can have your arms out in front of you and trying to get your chest onto the ground. Otherwise, we'll just stay on our elbows and we'll just hold there and just nice gentle breathing, Really trying to relax and open up through our hips as best we can. And to slowly get out of it, lean forward and then bring your legs together. So we're just going to do some Cobra positions, so pressing up, opening up the chest, so give it a little twist in your spine if you need to. And then we're just going to roll down, so one vertebrae at a time. And then slowly coming up. It's the last thing to come up and the last to come down. So pressing up, rolling up through the back, opening up through the chest, and slowly coming down. So thinking about each individual vertebrae, slowly moving as much as they can. If you need to, if you feel a little pinching in the back, just squeeze your glutes. I find that helps. Alright, so now we're going to go to a high kneeling position. We're going to do some quad nordics, so squeezing our glutes, legs, core, everything really, and leaning back. So as we do this, you can have your hands across like me, or you can have it out in front. And we're just going to lean back to a position that feels comfortable for you. And then coming back up, trying not to break at the hip, so trying to keep everything in line together. Squeezing to come back up. Nice work. Alright, so now we're just going to have a little bit of a glute stretch. So one foot under, and then you're going to cross that over top, the other one, and give it a nice big hug. Nice gentle breathing while we're here as well. And then we're going to turn even more to get some thoracic, so that mid-back rotation. And then we're going to change sides. So tuck the leg, and then the other leg on top, give it a nice big hug. And then from there, we're going to turn for our mid-back rotation on our other side. Nice gentle breathing, sitting up nice and tall in this position so that back arm is supporting you on the ground. And slowly come out of that. So we're going to go back onto our hands and knees, and we're just going to do some wrist mobility now. So we're just going to lean forward and back over our wrists, working within the range that's suited to you. So we don't want to push through the pain if there is any there, but we want to work through any of that tightness that we feel. Just forward and back to start off with. Then we're going to turn, if you can, turn your fingers towards you, so your elbow pit is facing away from you, and then we're just going to lean forward and back again. You may need to adjust or have a little slight bend in your elbow if you hyperextend like me. Just nice and slow with these. And then we're going to go fingers facing away. And now we're just going to do fingers facing towards each other, rocking side to side, just nice and slow. Alright, so we're just going to interlace our fingers and just do some wrist rolls one way, and then we're going to change to the other direction. shake it out if you need to. And then we're just going to tuck our toes under. And then going forward and back. So as we come forward, knees touch the ground. You can rest your full weight all the way down if you need to. And then pushing back up over onto our toes. Just working through our toe mobility as well as the ankle joints as well. Just back and forth, nice and slow. And we are all done. Awesome work, team. See you later.